When it comes to intimacy, most men grow up believing a simple but misleading idea that women's satisfaction is primarily about physical performance. Popular culture, movies, and even locker room conversations reinforce this myth, telling men that the key to being a good lover is endurance, strength, or technique. But psychology and relationship science paint a very different picture. True satisfaction for women is far more complex, holistic, and emotional than these myths suggest. In fact, studies consistently show that women report the highest levels of intimacy and satisfaction not just when physical needs are met, but when emotional safety, trust, and genuine connection are present. Simply put, intimacy isn't a race, it's a relationship. And men who understand this unlock a much deeper level of connection. Why does this myth of performance equals satisfaction persist? Part of the reason is media conditioning. Movies and adult content portray intimacy as a performance act, fast, flawless, and always satisfying. These portrayals ignore the real dynamics of relationships, emotional vulnerability, communication, and the slow build of trust. The truth is, many women feel unsatisfied not because their partners lack stamina or skill, but because their emotional needs are overlooked. They crave presence more than pressure, listening more than showing off, and care more than technique. The psychology of intimacy teaches us that satisfaction comes from being with your partner, not performing for your partner. Another factor is silence. In many cultures, especially in the US and UK, open discussions about female desire remain taboo. Women are often discouraged from voicing their needs, while men are rarely taught how to ask. This silence leaves men guessing and women frustrated. Psychology calls this the assumption gap, where partners assume they know what the other wants without ever confirming it. This gap fuels misunderstandings, unmet needs, and ultimately dissatisfaction. By contrast, couples who openly talk about intimacy, emotions, and preferences report stronger bonds and more fulfilling experiences. Here's the powerful shift. When men move beyond the myth of performance and begin to see intimacy as an emotional journey, everything changes. They stop focusing on pressure, am I good enough, and start focusing on presence. Am I connected enough? This shift reduces anxiety for both partners. Women feel safer, understood, and valued. Men feel freer, less pressured, and more confident. The result is not only better intimacy, but also deeper love and trust outside the bedroom. So as we begin this guide, let's clear the biggest misconception once and for all. Women's satisfaction is not about tricks, techniques, or lasting longer. It's about connection, trust, and communication. Psychology proves that passion and fulfillment thrive where emotional and physical needs are equally honored. In the rest of this video, we'll explore exactly how men can build this kind of intimacy, creating emotional safety, practicing communication, understanding women's desire, and learning the art of presence. Because true satisfaction isn't about performing, it's about truly knowing, respecting, and connecting with the woman you love. Before passion, before physical closeness, and before performance, women need to feel secure, psychologically, emotionally, and relationally. Without trust, even the most perfect physical intimacy feels incomplete. With trust, even simple gestures become powerful, meaningful, and deeply satisfying. For many men, this idea feels surprising because society often frames intimacy as purely physical. But psychology tells a deeper story. The brain and body are inseparable, and when women feel emotionally safe, their bodies naturally respond with openness, desire, and deeper connection. Why is emotional safety so important? Stress and anxiety are intimacy killers. When women feel judged, dismissed, or misunderstood, their bodies produce cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol directly interferes with arousal, desire, and satisfaction. On the other hand, when a woman feels safe, knowing her partner respects her boundaries, listens without judgment, and values her, cortisol decreases, while oxytocin, the bonding hormone, increases. Oxytocin not only creates trust and relaxation, but also primes the body for intimacy. In other words, emotional safety isn't just nice to have, it's biological fuel for intimacy. Men often ask, So how do I create that safety? The answer lies in consistency and respect. Emotional safety is built through small, daily actions, keeping promises, showing empathy, apologizing when wrong, and validating feelings instead of dismissing them. Something as simple as saying, "I hear you and your feelings matter to me," can make a woman feel understood on a deep level. Over time, these gestures create a foundation of trust that turns intimacy from a mechanical act into a deeply emotional experience. Another key element is respecting boundaries. Many women hesitate to share their needs out of fear of rejection or ridicule. Men who respond with patience, curiosity, and kindness create a safe space where women feel free to express themselves. This expression leads to greater confidence and vulnerability, both of which are critical for true satisfaction. Think of emotional safety as an invitation. It signals you are safe to be yourself here. That freedom is what allows passion to flourish authentically. It's also important to note that trust isn't built in a day, it's earned over time. Small betrayals, broken promises, or dismissive comments may seem insignificant, but they accumulate and erode safety. Conversely, consistent honesty, reliability, and support create an emotional environment where women feel cherished. When that happens, intimacy becomes not only easier, but also more fulfilling for both partners. The takeaway is simple yet profound. Women cannot feel truly satisfied without emotional trust. For men, this means shifting the focus from impressing with performance to connecting through presence. By showing reliability, respect, and empathy, men unlock the first and most essential door to intimacy. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into how communication strengthens this emotional safety and becomes the foundation for lasting passion. The role of communication in intimacy. If emotional safety is the foundation of intimacy, then communication is the bridge that connects two people on every level: emotional, physical, and psychological. Many men assume that intimacy should be natural, that partners should just know what each other wants without needing to talk about it. But the reality is very different. Women's needs are diverse, nuanced, and often change depending on context, mood, and stage of life. Without communication, men are left guessing and women are left feeling misunderstood. With communication, intimacy becomes a collaborative journey where both partners feel seen, heard, and satisfied. Psychologists emphasize that open dialogue reduces anxiety and builds trust. When women feel they can express their desires, boundaries, and fears without judgment, they feel emotionally safe and more willing to engage physically. This is where many relationships falter. Men avoid talking about intimacy out of fear of rejection, while women stay silent out of fear of hurting their partner's ego. The result? Misunderstandings, unmet needs, and frustration. By contrast, couples who openly talk about intimacy, what they enjoy, what they struggle with, what they'd like to try, report higher satisfaction levels and stronger emotional bonds. Communication also includes active listening. Too often, partners hear words but don't truly listen. Active listening means giving full attention, maintaining eye contact, and validating what your partner is saying. For example, if a woman says, "I sometimes feel rushed," an active listener doesn't respond defensively, but with curiosity. "Thank you for sharing. What would feel better for you?" This simple shift from defensiveness to openness transforms intimacy. Women feel valued and men gain clarity instead of confusion. Another aspect of communication is discussing boundaries and consent. Far from being unromantic, these conversations are empowering. When women know their boundaries will be respected, they relax and open up emotionally and physically. Boundaries aren't restrictions, they're guidelines that create trust. Couples who discuss consent and comfort levels regularly are not only safer, but also more adventurous, because safety invites exploration. Communication is also about sharing fantasies and desires. Many women hesitate to express what excites them, worried about being judged. Men who create a safe, non-judgmental space for these conversations unlock new levels of connection. Talking about desires doesn't just improve physical intimacy, it deepens emotional intimacy by showing vulnerability and trust. It says, "I want to share all of myself with you, and I trust you to accept me." Finally, communication isn't just about intimacy inside the bedroom, it's about the way couples talk every day. Small check-ins, words of appreciation, and expressing gratitude all contribute to a healthy emotional climate. When women feel consistently valued in everyday conversations, they bring that trust and affection into physical intimacy. The takeaway: communication is intimacy. Without it, passion becomes guesswork. With it, passion becomes partnership. For men who want to truly satisfy women, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be present, curious, and open. In the next section, we'll explore how understanding women's desire as a blend of emotional and physical connection helps deepen satisfaction even further. Understanding desire, emotional physical blend. One of the biggest misunderstandings men have about women's intimacy is the assumption that desire is purely physical. The truth is that for most women, desire is an emotional and physical blend, a dance between feeling cared for, respected, and emotionally connected, as well as experiencing physical attraction and stimulation. In fact, psychologists often distinguish between spontaneous desire, which is more common in men, and responsive desire, which is more common in women. Spontaneous desire happens quickly and without much buildup, but responsive desire is triggered when emotional closeness, affection, and context align. This explains why so many women say that intimacy begins long before the bedroom, with the way their partner speaks, listens, touches, or shows care throughout the day. Consider this example: a man who listens attentively, shares laughter, and helps reduce his partner's stress is far more likely to see her relax and feel open to intimacy later. Why? Because desire in women is often sparked by emotional safety and connection. If she feels emotionally distant, pressured, or ignored, her body is less likely to respond, even if she loves her partner deeply. This isn't rejection, it's biology and psychology working together. Stress hormones like cortisol dampen arousal, while bonding hormones like oxytocin enhance it. Men who understand this dynamic stop seeing intimacy as a performance and start seeing it as a holistic experience. Another key element of this blend is affection outside of sex. Small gestures, holding hands, giving compliments, sending thoughtful messages, prime emotional closeness that translates into physical readiness. For women, foreplay isn't just physical touch before intimacy, it's the collection of small loving actions that build anticipation throughout the day. A kind word in the morning, a warm hug after work, or even a playful smile can all contribute to building desire. These gestures communicate, "You matter to me," which lays the groundwork for intimacy to feel natural rather than forced. It's also essential to understand that women's desires evolve. What feels exciting at one stage of life may change in another. Pregnancy, postpartum recovery, menopause, stress, and shifting responsibilities all influence desire. Men who remain curious, attentive, and adaptable show their partners that they value connection over ego. This adaptability is crucial because it honors the truth that intimacy is not static. It's alive, fluid, and responsive to both partners' needs. Finally, men should know that emotional connection is not a substitute for physical passion, it's the amplifier. When women feel emotionally connected, physical desire doesn't just appear, it intensifies. That's why the most satisfying relationships combine emotional closeness with consistent physical attention. Neither element stands alone, they reinforce each other. The takeaway is simple: women's desire is holistic. It begins in the heart and continues in the body. Men who want to truly satisfy women must invest in both, showing affection, offering emotional presence, and engaging in thoughtful physical intimacy. When men honor this emotional, physical blend, they transform intimacy from routine into something deeply meaningful. In the next section, we'll see why presence, patience, and attunement are the final skills every man needs to master for lasting satisfaction. Presence, patience, and attunement. If there is one skill that separates men who merely perform from those who truly satisfy their partners, it is the ability to show presence, patience, and attunement. Many men believe intimacy is about speed, stamina, or technique, but psychology shows otherwise. Women often describe their most satisfying experiences not in terms of duration or skill, but in how present and attentive their partner felt. Presence means giving undivided attention, being mentally and emotionally there, not distracted, not rushing, not treating intimacy as a checklist. When a man is fully present, his partner feels valued, seen, and safe. This state alone can transform the entire experience. Patience is equally essential. Unlike the stereotype of instant desire, women's arousal often takes more time to build. This isn't a flaw, it's simply biology. Blood flow, hormones, and psychological readiness follow a slower curve compared to men. When men rush, women feel pressured. which increases stress and reduces satisfaction. When men are patient, women feel cared for, which lowers stress and enhances arousal. Patience communicates, "Your comfort matters more than my ego," and that message is incredibly powerful in deepening connection. In fact, studies in sexual psychology reveal that women report higher satisfaction when their partners focus on relaxed pacing rather than performance goals. Then comes attunement, the art of noticing and responding to your partner's cues. Attunement is more than asking, "Is this okay?" It's reading body language, sensing energy shifts, and adjusting in real time. Is she relaxing or tensing up, leaning closer or pulling back, breathing faster or slower? These cues guide men toward what feels right for their partner. Attunement requires mindfulness, not autopilot. When men approach intimacy with curiosity, tuning into subtle signals instead of assuming, they build trust and enhance pleasure for both. Presence, patience, and attunement also extend beyond physical intimacy. A man who listens attentively during conversations, who notices when his partner is stressed, who pauses to offer comfort instead of rushing past emotions. This man builds emotional safety that naturally translates into physical closeness. Women often say foreplay starts hours before intimacy, with how their partner treats them throughout the day. A thoughtful gesture, a supportive word, or simply putting down the phone and making eye contact all signal presence. When combined with patience and attunement, these behaviors create the conditions for intimacy to feel fulfilling instead of pressured. The biggest mistake men make is focusing only on outcomes, thinking satisfaction equals orgasm or performance marker. In reality, women describe the most satisfying intimacy as a journey, not a destination. Presence keeps men in the moment, patience allows the journey to unfold naturally, and attunement ensures that both partners remain connected along the way. These three qualities turn intimacy into an experience of trust, exploration, and joy. The takeaway is clear: women feel most satisfied when their partners are not just physically present, but emotionally attuned. For men, this means slowing down, paying attention, and staying connected, not just chasing an end goal. In the final section, we'll bring everything together and explore how redefining satisfaction as connection, rather than performance, helps men create intimacy that lasts. Conclusion: redefining true satisfaction. After exploring emotional safety, communication, desire, and the art of presence, one lesson becomes undeniable. True satisfaction, for women, is never just about physical performance. It's about holistic connection. For too long, men have been taught to equate intimacy with techniques, stamina, or proving themselves. But psychology and relationship science reveal a more meaningful truth. Women feel most fulfilled when intimacy honors their mind, heart, and body together. It's not about impressing her, it's about understanding her. Not about pressure, it's about presence. And not about ego, it's about empathy. This redefinition of satisfaction is powerful because it liberates both parties. Men no longer feel trapped in the exhausting cycle of performance anxiety, constantly questioning, "Am I good enough?" Instead, they can relax into curiosity, trust, and connection. Women in turn no longer feel like passive participants or judges in a performance. They feel safe, valued, and emotionally engaged. Conditions that naturally awaken desire and deepen physical closeness. Satisfaction becomes a shared experience rather than a test. In psychology, this is often described as the difference between transactional intimacy and transformational intimacy. Transactional intimacy is focused on goals and outcomes. It's mechanical, predictable, and easily disrupted by stress or routine. Transformational intimacy, however, focuses on connection. It grows through trust, communication, and shared vulnerability. Couples who practice transformational intimacy report higher levels of passion, stronger relationships, and deeper love over decades. The takeaway is clear: satisfaction isn't a box to check, it's a living experience that evolves with care. Another critical point is that satisfaction doesn't happen in isolation. It's connected to every part of the relationship. How partners talk during the day, how they resolve conflicts, how they show affection, and how they support each other emotionally. All of these threads weave together into the fabric of intimacy. When women feel appreciated in daily life, they bring that openness into physical closeness. When men slow down, listen, and remain attuned, women respond with greater trust and passion. In this way, intimacy is less about what happens in one moment and more about how love is expressed continuously. For men, embracing this mindset means redefining strength. True strength is not about controlling or performing. It's about caring, adapting, and showing up consistently. It's about being strong enough to be vulnerable, to listen without ego, and to prioritize connection over That is what makes a woman feel truly satisfied, not temporary excitement, but lasting intimacy built on respect and love. So here's the final message. If you want to truly satisfy a woman, stop focusing only on the physical checklist and start investing in the emotional journey. Learn to create safety, communicate openly, understand her desires, and be fully present with patience and attunement. When you do, satisfaction will no longer feel like pressure, it will feel like partnership. And that is the psychology of intimacy, a relationship where love is deeper, connection is stronger, and satisfaction is shared, lasting for years to come.